Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into one of the most persistent, wildly viral internet mysteries out there. The big question we're looking at is pretty simple, but honestly, it's absolutely fascinating. Did a cartoon secretly predict major real-world events years, or sometimes even decades before they actually happened? I mean, we've all seen those eerie screenshots floating around our social feeds, right? But today, we're cutting through the noise to look at the hard evidence. We're going to break down exactly how this beloved show keeps shocking the internet over and over again, and see what the data actually tells us. When you really stop and look at the sheer scope of these claims, it's kind of mind-boggling. We're talking about everything from presidential elections to massive corporate buyouts, technological leaps, and even major scientific breakthroughs. On the surface, this level of accuracy seems literally impossible for an animated comedy. So as we go through this explainer, we're going to put these famous moments under the microscope. We want to know, are these viral claims actual, unexplainable prophecies, or are they just brilliant coincidences born out of ridiculously smart writing?
All right, let's jump straight into Part 1, Pure Visual Coincidences.
So let's kick things off with one of the most shocking claims out there, which centers around the tragic events of 9/11. This is the perfect place to start because it really shows how our brains are hardwired to find patterns, especially when we're looking back at the past through the lens of modern history. Okay, so in a 1997 episode titled The City of New York vs. Homer Simpson, there's a moment where a printed brochure is held up. It shows a $9 price tag sitting right next to the iconic silhouette of the Twin Towers. Visually, yeah, it unmistakably creates 9/11. It is undeniably eerie to look at today, but what's the reality here? Well, this episode aired a full 4 years before the events of 2001. According to the creators, this was purely a visual design coincidence based on a cheap $9 bus fare. There is absolutely zero actual evidence that this was meant to predict the future.
Moving right along, let's get into Part 2, when satire becomes reality. Now we're shifting gears from random visual quirks to highly specific cultural milestones. Let's take a look at this timeline, because this is where the show's reputation for predicting the future really started to gain mainstream traction. The predictive shock factor here is just incredible. Look at this. A joke airs in 1998 about a corporate buyout, and another one drops in the year 2000 about Donald Trump. Then we jump forward to 2016 and beyond, and those exact, literal punchlines become factual, historical headlines. It's that massive passage of time that makes these predictions feel so clairvoyant. Let's break down these two specific timeline events.
Context is everything here. In the year 2000, there was an episode called Bart to the Future, giving us a glimpse into a hypothetical future where Lisa Simpson has just become the President of the United States. During a meeting, she casually drops the line that President Trump left a financial crisis. Back when this aired, everyone recognized it as simply satire. Fast forward to 2016, Donald Trump actually does become president, and boom, this clip instantly goes viral. But if we take a step back and look at it analytically, political comedy has a super long history of imagining powerful business moguls or pop culture figures entering politics. It wasn't some psychic vision, It was just a piece of clever social commentary exploring the idea of a high-profile businessman taking the highest office. It just so happened to align perfectly with reality 16 years later.
We see that exact same kind of satirical forecasting on display in a 1998 episode. There's a really quick visual gag showing a massive sign declaring 20th Century Fox as a division of Walt Disney Co. Now, at that specific time in the late 90s, the idea of the super family-friendly Disney Corporation gobbling up the much edgier Fox studio was strictly meant to be an absurd, laugh-out-loud corporate joke. It was purely a commentary on the ever-growing monopolies in the entertainment industry.
And wow, does this ever brilliantly illustrate the bizarre reality we live in. Over 2 whole decades after that quick visual joke aired, Disney actually did acquire 21st Century Fox, closing a monumental deal worth more than $71 billion. I mean, think about that. What started as a tiny little piece of background satire drawn by some animator in the late 90s literally became one of the largest corporate acquisitions in modern business history. Okay, let's dive into Part 3. Highly educated guesses. As we dig a little deeper into this whole detective arc, we find instances that definitely aren't just lucky jokes or broad social satire. Instead, they are highly educated guesses based on actual rigorous academia. For example, take a 2010 episode where the characters are literally placing bets on Nobel Prize winners. Milhouse specifically predicts that Bengt Holmstrom is going to win the Nobel Prize in economics. Fast forward to 2016, and what happens? Holmstrom actually wins it. When this broke, it absolutely shocked viewers. I mean, how on earth could a cartoon character successfully predict a Nobel laureate in economics 6 whole years in advance? Well, the answer reveals a really important detail that people constantly forget. This wasn't magic. Several writers on the show actually have incredibly strong, advanced academic backgrounds. We are talking about degrees in mathematics, economics, and hard science from Ivy League universities, and they actively follow these fields. So when they wrote that joke, they weren't just pulling a random name out of a hat. They were intentionally highlighting a highly respected economist who was genuinely doing Nobel-worthy work at the time. Their predictions are in fact just highly educated guesses.
We see that exact same academic rigor in the episode The Wizard of Evergreen Terrace. In it, Homer is trying his hand at being an inventor, and he writes this incredibly complex mathematical equation on a chalkboard. Years later, scientists officially discovered the Higgs boson, a fundamental particle of the universe. And astoundingly, the mass of that newly discovered particle closely resembled the solution to the equation Homer had scribbled on that board years prior. Again, it sounds completely impossible, but it was really just the result of highly intelligent writers inserting real, cutting-edge theoretical physics concepts right into their comedy.
And that brings us to part 4, probability, not prophecy.
So, having looked at the visual anomalies, the biting satirical commentary, and the academic forecasting, what's the actual truth behind this iconic show's apparent clairvoyance? Well, the show doesn't predict the future. It predicts possibilities. We have to consider the sheer, massive volume of material we're dealing with here. When an animated show runs for more than 30 years, producing hundreds upon hundreds of episodes, it generates tens of thousands of jokes, plot lines, and little background gags. By the simple law of large numbers, some of those thousands of ideas are naturally going to end up resembling future real-world events.
Rather than relying on psychic abilities or some secret time machine, the writers actually have a very grounded secret formula. Step 1 is probability. If you throw enough darts at a board over 30 years, you're absolutely going to hit a few bullseyes. Step 2 is satire. By paying super close attention to human behavior and societal trends, clever social commentary often anticipates exactly where culture is naturally heading. And step 3, smart writing. When you employ educated academics who actively follow science and economics, they're going to make some incredibly accurate, educated guesses about the future. When you combine those 3 elements, you get a show that seems to just know what's coming. And honestly, that might be even more impressive than magically predicting the future.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder. Knowing the real formula behind the magic, are these hundreds of famous instances just mathematical coincidences and the natural result of probability? Or is this brilliant writing team, armed with a deep, deep understanding of human nature, science, and society, somehow always just one step ahead of its time? Keep a close eye out the next time you watch, because who knows? The next big real-world event might already be hidden right there in plain sight.